Hello, hello, hello. My name is Tiara Nicole Riley. I am a motivational speaker, five-time published author, life coach, and owner of Rethinking Me LLC. Now, we are kicking off a brand new series, and it's one it's a subject I love to talk about. I'm going to go ahead and say that. I love talking about this subject. And the reason I love talking about this subject is because it impacts so many things. Let me say it that way. It impacts so many things when it comes to your overall life. And that is the topic of I know I've been dangling it. I've been dangling it. That's what the topic of mental health. Okay, we are going to talk about mental health. We're going to get into the conversation. It is something that literally impacts every area of your life. And so, before we get too far into the conversation, I did want to just intro the topic of mental health and talk about like my personal relationship with it. And it is kind of twofold. So, for those who don't know, my bachelor's degree is from Virginia Tech, and it is actually in psychology. I've never actually worked in the field. So a lot of people who know me don't know that my bachelor's is in psychology or all of the things. And I think I haven't formally worked in the field. Let me say it that way. I have not formally worked in the field, but I have had a appreciation for the industry. I think it makes me a better mother. I think, and I've talked about this, I think on TikTok, but I feel like all just like we take Lamaze classes, I feel like soon to be parents should also take like child psychology classes. It should be just as common. So my psych degree does make me a better mother. It makes me a better human. It makes me a better manager and leader of my organization. And I think it also makes me a better life coach because I have a different understanding of why people do what they do. But also, I have a personal history with mental health challenges. So I have struggled with depression. I have struggled with postpartum depression specifically as well. I have struggled with anxiety. I've had post traumatic stress disorder. And I have also had suicidal thoughts and feelings, and even an attempt as young as when I was 7. And I like to be honest about when my first suicidal attempt was, because at the end of the day, um, I think, especially in the black community, we have this mindset where it's like, well, you don't pay no bills. What you got to be sad about? Our kids are hurting. Our kids are hurting. Um, and because we don't give them that space to acknowledge that hurt or sadness, um, they turn to their friends who are also kids. They turn to the internet. They turn to, other outlets that are pointing them in dangerous directions. So I always try to be, when I tell people that I have experienced suicide, I also try to be honest about the fact that it was as young as 7 years old. Like, I actually attempted to take my own life as a 7-year-old kid. Our kids are hurting, and we have to give them space for that to be honest about that feeling. Um, so that is my history and my connection to mental health, as well as my professional, like my academic background and all of the things. So just wanted to share that, so that you understand kind of where I'm speaking from when we have this conversation. It is going to be a series. I don't know how long a series is going to be. I never know how long the series is going to be. I go on a topic until I feel like God tells me, okay, time for this topic, right? But in this intro video, I did want to kind of speak to the importance in our Black community. Now, can only speak about the Black community because that is the community of which I'm a part of. I cannot speak to how mental health impacts any other community, right? But specifically for the Black community and specifically for Black women, I think we have a very tough history with mental health. And when I say a tough history, it is coming from the place of we haven't had the luxury or freedom to prioritize mental health historically. Historically, Black women have been required almost to be strong, to be the matriarchs of our family, to be so much to so many people in our families, in our workplaces, in our academic spaces. Black women have pretty much put society on its back. And then on the flip side of that, because we have been required to be strong, because we have been required to give to others at the sacrifice of giving to ourselves, then we are criticized for being angry, short tempered, all of these things. And I truly believe it's unfair. However, what I would like to say from a place of love is that a lot of us, especially Black women, are struggling with their mental health, but we don't recognize it because we have seen it conditioned, right? Because we aren't having conversations about self-care, because we aren't having conversations about mental health. We've watched our mothers, our aunts, our grandmothers go through and push through and not give themselves space to process their feelings. It has almost become a weakness to acknowledge your feelings. And that is the thing that I hope that this series kind of challenges a little bit. I do say that with the awareness that it is a luxury to be able to focus on our mental health, right? When you think back to each generation's fights, right? Like, yes, as a millennial, we are hyper focused on mental and emotional well being and all of the things. I think that's a great thing. Let me just say that. I think it's a great thing that millennials are focused so heavily on mental and emotional well being. We will quit a job that triggers our mental well being, right? We will leave a situation, leave a friend, like we will cut off a family member. We are very protective of our mental and emotional well being, and I think that's a good thing. Gen X is the generation that fought for like professional and financial equality for the Black community, but especially as Black women, right? They are the generation that fought to get education or prioritize education and prioritize professional accomplishments and all of that, right? Then you think about the boomers. They were fighting for like civil rights. Like that was literally just like 2, 3 generations ago. Like your grandparents and your great grandparents were literally walking the streets saying, "Don't shoot me for just existing." So I recognize that it is a luxury to be able to sit down and say, you know what, I'm taking a mental health day from work. I remember the first time I said that to my mother, she was like, "A what?" I'm like, "Yeah, I don't have the capacity to go to work, so I'm not going to work. I'm using my PTO." Problem solved. And she was like, "Girl, huh? Like what?" Right? So I get that's a luxury, and I understand that each generation has had different challenges that they are working to fight for. And I also understand that this is millennials' fight of choice. Mental and emotional well being is millennial fight of choice. I love it for us personally. I love it for our kids even more. Um, I just also want us millennials to understand that this is a luxury because of our parents' fight for professional and financial equality. We now have the luxury of saying, "I'm gonna take a mental health day from work. I'm gonna actually use my PTO. I'm gonna go on vacation, all these other things," because we are now considered equal, right? So we are sitting on the shoulders, but I think that's what each generation is supposed to do. Each generation is supposed to push our communities forward in a different way. And I think for millennials, we have chosen to sit on the shoulders of our parents and grandparents and great grandparents and push our community to the next step, which is like, cool, cool, cool. Slavery's done. Cool, cool, cool. Equal rights have been accomplished, allegedly. Cool, cool, cool. Professional equality is a thing now. Cool, cool, cool. We're good on paper, allegedly. Again, allegedly. We're good on paper. Now let's focus on ourselves. Now let's focus on mental and emotional well being. Let's heal some of this trauma so we stop passing it to the next generation and considering it normal. Right? Now, thank you for all that you guys have done so that we can focus on healing some of this trauma so that the next generation doesn't get inherited trauma, right? Like, we want to pass on generational wealth, not generational trauma. Cool, cool, cool. Got it. So, as we talk through this conversation, I also wanted to make sure that I offered my tips and suggestions for finding a therapist. I don't want to leave you hanging, first and foremost. Like, I want to be able to provide some resources. The first resource that I definitely want to shout out is Therapy for Black Girls. First of all, it's an amazing podcast. If you have not checked them out, definitely check out their podcast. They are an amazing resource in general. But if you go to their website, therapyforblackgirls.com, I believe, they literally have a directory of Black lady therapists who can help you. Go look it up. Go look it up. Listen, okay? And so when I think about my recommendations for finding a therapist, I always recommend finding a therapist that looks like you by gender, race, and even sexual orientation, just in some cases. The reason for that, I feel like, yes, anybody is trained, like any therapist should be trained to help anybody. However, in my experience, I've had the most productive therapeutic relationships with people who look like me. Black women have helped me better than any other therapist I've had. And I say that because there's nothing a white woman can tell me about being black. And there's nothing a black man can tell me about being a woman. So if I am going to a black woman, it automatically removes the need to like translate, code switch, all these other things. I can immediately put down my defenses. I don't have, you may not have experienced it, but you understand when I'm saying this kind of thing and it's a common cultural reference. I don't have to explain why my brain connected the dots in a certain way. We can just say, okay, cool, cool, cool. Now that we're here, let's get into the specifics. Like, I don't have to explain my experience as a black woman in America before we get to my experience as Tierra. That has been my recommendation for a number of years. Do what you want with that information, by all means. But I always recommend black men need to find a black man therapist, black women need to find a black lady therapist. That's it. However, if you are looking for a therapist, first of all, if you Google therapist near me, it actually will pull up a good resource. Like, I think it's like Psychology Today or whatever the case. What you can do from there is you can pull up, so you put in your zip code so to find somebody close to you. You can sort by gender. They do not have the option to sort by race. And from what I've seen, I think that should be a thing because race does matter. We could pretend like it doesn't matter, but it does matter. But anyway, so you can sort by gender. You can sort by who accepts your insurance. And then once you put your zip code in, it's going to find people close to you. But point of reference, if they have like remote services, which in a post-COVID world, a majority of them do at this point, you just have to be in the same state that they are licensed in. Get into it. Okay. And I love a good remote service. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm in the same state as my therapist and I could go to her office, but it's so much easier to just open a computer and have a conversation, right? Anyways, so that's a thing. Then you have the ability to just look at the pictures and or names, and that'll help you sort by you know, do with that which will. Cheese. But definitely at a minimum, find who offers your insurance. Find who accepts your insurance. You know, put in your location information, and then you can sort by gender, and then just scroll through and see who has openings and all of that fun stuff. And some of them have the ability to filter who's now accepting new patients too. Awesome. And the last thing I wanted to talk about today was kind of just opening your brain. Let's just, I don't know why I'm doing this for my brain, but it felt good. Sometimes you just got to do stuff because it feels good. That's a word for somebody. But just open your brain to the fact that your body feels the impact of your mental health. There are so many medical issues that are closely related to stress. Now, I don't remember the percentage, but I remember seeing a statistic where like an alarming rate of first time heart attacks are on Monday mornings. Now you tell me why you think that is. You know what I mean? Why do you think a majority of first time heart attacks are on Monday morning? Like, it's ridiculous. And I want to say it was like 79% or something ridiculous, right? Your body is experiencing the challenges of unaddressed mental health concerns. Truly. Overwhelm, stress, anxiety, those type of things tend to show up physically. And the next time you are dealing with an inability to sleep, an inability to, like you have chronic pain that's unexplainable and they can't figure out where it's coming from, what's causing it. Like there's so many things. Like the next time you have a physical ailment, I really want you to like take a moment to really think about where it's coming from. Truthfully, where it's coming from. Truthfully. Anywho's, I wish you the best in your mental health journey. And I know this is very millennial of me, but I do truly hope that in the year of our Lord 2024, that you make an intentional effort to prioritize your mental and emotional well-being. I am tired. I am tired, and especially for my Black women, I am tired of Black women being exhausted, overworked, unsupported, stressed, frustrated, all of these things. When help is available, help is available. Let's get you a Black lady therapist and let's actually deal with some of our trauma. And I think a lot of times we think, when we hear PTSD, we immediately think military. No, baby. I would like to introduce you to a concept called CPTSD, which is complex post-traumatic stress disorder. CPTSD typically means that there's not one thing that happened that was traumatic. CPTSD is things like examples of that I have experienced, right? Because of the string of police brutality towards Black people and all of that, when I'm driving in my car and a cop just happens to pull up behind me, it doesn't matter what I'm doing, if I'm following the law, whatever the case, I immediately get anxious. Immediately. And that anxiety does not go away until that officer drives past me. That is a example of CPTSD. I have not experienced police brutality, but because I have witnessed countless people who look like me experience police brutality, I now have CPTSD. That is when you hear a random bang and you think your first thought is somebody shooting. CPTSD. So I say that to say, at a minimum, if you were born Black in America, you need therapy, because we all have some form of CPTSD, simply because we are born Black in America, and we are constantly witnessing the skin, the tone, the color of your skin being used against you in a number of different ways. So go talk to somebody who looks like you to go process that, who is trained to process that, because your friends are not your therapist. Your family are not your therapist. Your partner is not your therapist. They are not trained to be able to deal with that. And even if your friend, partner, or family is a therapist, it is not fair to rely on them therapeutically when you are not their client. Anyways, I will see you guys next week. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Share this video with somebody who needs it. Get the help you need. Get the help you need. It is available to you. Definitely make sure you hit the notification bell when you subscribe so that you're the first to know when the next video drops. See you next week.